an interactive point of learning. The moment you type in something, it kind of sticks here unconsciously. You might not know how much it sticks, but it kind of gets into your mind, okay? Because this is a learning forum, it's important to set certain engagement rules. That's when it works. Yeah, imagine this is just your real classroom. It's just that we are virtually connected, but it's actually like a real classroom. We're all together. Also understand that I'm also learning in the bargain. Okay, as I keep teaching, I guess as I keep reflecting on what I've learned, I guess it gets endorsed. So that's one way of learning which I've learned. So this is not everything is new what I just said now, but it's important in this kind of a setting. Okay, so I think let me see. Great. So I'm going to give you a few ways of how we will take you through, how I would be wanting to take you through this session. Okay, a little bit you might have understood because I shared an ebook earlier on the system, and I hope everybody had a chance to look at it. So first things first, I will be asking questions, and the question is not to really put you on the spotlight and make it difficult on this. Question is to really know the extent of understanding whatever it is. See, one of the rules I want to say is don't hesitate to put what is on your mind. Everything is right. Okay, it's just the extent of learning that we are doing. Some things will be more elaborate. We may know certain things, but certain things you just parking and sharing with me as a facilitator. I don't even want to call myself as a trainer. I'm a facilitator in this session. I facilitate the learning program which we have today, okay, with whatever knowledge I have. And of course, sometimes I will need to know what are you bringing into this, and that helps me in a way to know what I can give you or what I can give you later, because the time doesn't permit sometimes to go beyond. Okay, so this is a little bit of initial thing I want to say. And with that, I start with one question. Why are we doing this session? I will not ask this question to Dr. Ajitji, Sunilji and all, but let me ask all the students here who are part of this. Why are you here? What is it that you intend to learn? What is the benefit? Why are we doing this? Anyone? Just go with what's on your mind. It's okay. There is no hard and fast thing. We will evolve. I'm looking for answers in the chat box, preferably. Simple one-liners is good enough. You know how the project works? Great, Aditya. So that's why you think you are here. How to work on the project? Fantastic. About project management, about understanding project management. Well, to a large extent, yes, but why? So what? Okay, you got project management out of this. So my question is, so what? The why is deeper, and that why is what will be the leading thing. It's like a lighthouse. You know the lighthouse, right? The lighthouse leads you to a particular place where you can reach the sea, and reach the port effectively, and that's why you keep lighthouses, right? Now this is the why is the lighthouse. It is the leading light for us. So you got to go one step deeper beyond what looks superficial. The superficial part is, oh, I'm going to learn project management. So many of you have written that because I've seen project in most of the answers. But why? Go one more step deeper. Because that's what you need to keep inside all the way. Why are we doing this? You could have straight away done project management also. Not getting any answers. Now learning more about the project to better understand project management. Anyone else wants to go? Let's say other than the students part. Anybody else wants to go on it? Thank you, Sunilji. Outcome is one thing. Yes, absolutely. And what's the outcome? What's the outcome? Efficient execution of the project. Yeah. So what does the project do? What does the project deliver? Okay, I'm going to ask you one little bit more different question then, because it is all connected. Whatever I ask you is not just asking for a question's sake. It's important. They're all connected. Okay. How many have read the ebook? Be candid. If you're not read, if you're not read, that's okay. But how many of you have at least done the browsing, as I said? Now, I didn't expect you to read the whole ebook end to end, just sending it over yesterday. No, not at all. What I intended, I think I mentioned. How many of you can somebody talk about what you did with the ebook? No, because that is another question I need to know. Please, Aditya, you have raised your hands. Please go ahead, because that will probably decide how deep I will go into that. Someone has asked to raise the hands. Who was it? You wanted to talk, you can unmute and talk, no problem. Okay, so I'm not getting input, so you will see that my energy drains a bit. Sorry, I'll try my best to bring it back. Okay. Application is for the customer. Okay, so what you know what? It's very simple. We are doing this. The why behind it is really what we call as the purpose. Right? It's simple, right? So what is the purpose? We're going to develop a product. Okay. If anybody had read the ebook, I was only like expecting that kind of an answer, saying, the book says, we are developing a product. Why are we developing a product? Because we want to serve somebody, right? And who is this? Who are the people we are going to serve? I think we have a very clear list of what kind of people are going to use this app. The app is the product that we are building, and that product is going to be put to use. So you have to always think from a customer hat. That is the bottom line message. We are developing it for people who will use it for research. Why? Because we believe we can build a product that will be really, a real top of the market kind of stuff, with the kind of features that will enable people, especially researchers, right? So we have that if you looked at the SRS. So why am I saying that? Because this is all connected. Do not do a project in isolation. That's the first thing. We are not doing things in isolation. It's not, project is not about just developing a program. A project is all about, like Sunilji said, it's an outcome. The outcome is a product, and the product has a set of features which we already built through. Said this is we designed as part of the SRS in terms of these are the things that we want to see in the product. That's called the specifications that we have put, the requirements that we want to have in the product. So I'm introducing these three concepts. Actually, the way I will do this, as I go, I'll help you go through this ebook now. That's what I wanted to do, because everything that we want to do in this is inside this. All right. So I've tried to put years of experience and years of learning that I myself got, put it into a proper structure which will enable us deliver this, and that's why we are doing this. Okay, so we'll learn these concepts today and see how to apply that concepts and how to use those concepts into delivering or bringing that outcome through the project. Product is what we build, and if you build something, you need to go and do it through a process. Okay, so why do we need a process? What's the appreciation for the process? Why do we need a process? Because once you know these foundations, they are the building blocks. Once you got that, you can never build a building. I mean, you can never crash the building if your foundation is strong. And we are laying those foundations very strongly, because I can recognize, a lot of you have done application development, but that's not it. I'm trying to bring it into a larger concept. So why do we need a process? Anybody? Just go for it. If you want to write something, or just unmute and say if you want. Why do we need a process? What can happen without a process? Why don't we build without a process? Anybody? Okay, I'm going to do a simple test for you to get that out. Okay. All ready? Are you ready for a simple interaction? Raise your hand. Just follow me. Raise your hand. I have to see it on the video. That's why you're on the video. Okay, so I see everybody, please. I'm just giving a command. Raise your hand. You've done so many commands in your software programming. Just raise your hand. I'm not seeing anybody raising, so it has to be raised. Don't put it down. Yeah, don't put it down. Just keep it up. Okay. Now, just look at the videos of everybody who's raised the hand. Because some people are not on the video, and that's a bit disappointing. I don't know what's stopping you. If you really have a contingency at home that you don't want to reveal, then it's understandable. But please call it out.
Ajit and Anirudh have some technical issue there. That's why they
Okay,
embrace off.
okay, okay. Please tell me, because this is exactly the kind of interaction I want. Otherwise, I will go like this. I will also go offline. You will not know what's happening. You will only hear my voice, right? Okay, so keep seeing, keep watching. What's happening? What do you observe when I ask, raise the hand? How many people? I have only four. I can only see four people actually. Three of them are not here, so not able to see it. So it's a bit difficult for me, but
7, 8, 9, 10. I think there are 11 people or 11 or 12 people raising hands.
okay. Yeah, because I can't see everybody. So the point about raising hands is, if you see, I can see, yeah, initially I think Bhavya had a pen in her hand. When I saw this, now a lot of people are raising your hands. And all of you seem to be in standard mode because this is the easy way, raising hands. I can raise hands like this also, right? And I can raise hands like this with something in my hand. Now, I was trying to give you an appreciation of a process. A process would say, if I say raise your right hand, okay, and hold it like this, then probably everybody will do it right. Now, there is a fair resonance in this group about whoever I saw in this raised like this. So you are now doing some kind of a process. You understood it at saying raising this hand, right? So we did an action, we did an activity, we raised our hand, and you would find that different people are raising hands sometimes in different ways. That's the problem, right? That means you're not getting the same output, right? I gave a command, but that command wasn't clear enough. Okay, now there is a process of raising the hand also. Suppose I had given 2 or 3 more steps about raising my hand, bringing it down, okay? Here the frequency would have been different, there would have been no timing. Unless I told, do it 1, 2, 1, 2, like this. None of this happened. So the core message here, which I wanted to deliver out of this is, a process is a systemic way of doing an item repeatably. You have to do that activity repeatably and in the right sequence. Okay, so we are doing the what, which is raising the hand, when, the timing of how you want to do it, how, or you say this, you raise it up like this, it's easier, then you bring it down, that kind of a thing, and you say you raise only half, you don't raise like this. So your process gives you that kind of clarity when currently delivered to be able to do a thing repeatably. When you do things repeatably, you get the same outcome. Everybody started doing it the same way after some time. Either you looked at other videos or you did it yourself, but eventually everybody did it the same way. Now, imagine if in a software or a product development, you all built products, but eventually you are following instructions according to your understanding only. You would have had a product which would not be consistent, right? Do you agree? How many of you agree with that? You can just, yeah, just say agree, A, in the chat box. Okay, so that tells you, yeah, that you're with me. Just put A. So when you do that, you are doing it consistently. So the process is very important for us to do things in a very consistent way. Everybody, see, whether I go to Manu or whether I go to Anirudh, I go to Ajit, or anybody for that matter, all of you have understood and acted on it the same consistent way with the same consistent frequency, and you have got the same kind of output when you do that. Now, good, bad, ugly, whether that output is good, bad, ugly, we don't know still. That happens when our desired requirements have been met. If the requirements are met correctly, the output, what we call, the process as an input. Input is the set of instructions, whatever you give it. The processing is what we do, follow the steps, and the output is what you get consistently. And if your input and your way of processing or activities are consistent, you will get the same good, correct output. Okay, so the three things I talked about now, just quickly. One is having a product that you want to build for who? For the customers, to deliver a service or deliver some value that they will get out of this. Number two is the process. How do you build that product? You have to build it with the process, right? And then you have a project. So what is the project doing here? If process is the way we are building the whole thing, then what does project do here? Anyone? Anyone's got a project definition? What did you mean by project then? If, yeah, if the product can be built with a process, why do you need a project then? Feel free to share, okay? Project is a rough prototype of the final product. Not really. It helps you. You can do a prototype. It's part of the project. I agree. Okay, part of the project is to build a prototype and see whether it's working. Is the medium to deliver the outcome. Fantastic. That's a very good approach. So project is usually a very temporary stuff, right? You do it during a period, firstly, right? It's a temporary piece of activity. A project can be there for maybe 3 months, or even 3-year projects are there, or 5-year projects are there. That's fine. But that is it's, the process helps you how to do it. The project actually is a kind of methodology of how you do it. It covers many things. It tells you, you have to build it, right? How do you make sure you can build it? There is a time frame involved, as we said. There is a step by step way to do it, which the process will tell you. But you have to bring in a clear outcome to synchronize that outcome effectively, to bring people together and make them as a team and build it properly, to govern that whole thing, to see that you don't put, how do you say, you don't typically put Z in front of A, right? You start alphabetically in that order, A, B, C, D. So there's a sequence of doing it and synchronizing it. So a project does all that of that, and project has to have that investment. How much, will you keep doing this process endlessly? You have a software development process, which I talked about as process. Will you do that endlessly? Not really, right? You have a timeline, you have to control the budget, you have to control your time, you have to control the number of resources you bring in, you have to make all this work in unison and so forth, so on and so forth. Yeah, and you have to see that there are ways and recourses to correct things when that happens. And if there are some changes in the specification, it has to happen. So there is a way of working. Project is essentially a ways of working in a time-bound manner and within a given budget. The budget can include, what you spend the project on time on. Time is a budgeted item, for example, in a project. Money is a budgeted item. Resources is a budgeted item, and so on. So this is what you will do with the project. Okay, are you all right with me? Now I'm going to share my screen a bit and start walking you how to do all these, how to cover all these three with a little more, one more step deeper understanding. And then we will spend more time on to certain key areas that is relevant to building this product that we want. Now here is the approach. Now listen to me very carefully, because this is very important in terms of how you are going to do your learning piece and the practice piece going forward. So this is the approach, what I'm going to do. So what I have built in the ebook, you will find there is a very clear structure Okay, starting with saying what is a product, what is a process, and what is a project. There's an introduction. Let me try to now share my screen and then walk you through what I'm doing. Uh, Anybody, any questions while I flip into this so far? If not, we will have a Q&A session at the end of it. I'll cover all the questions as much as possible within the time thing, and then for rest we can still connect, okay, separately. Uh, Index. Anybody seeing my screen as yet? No. I put the entire screen. Okay, thank you. I'll try again. Entire screen. Am I allowed sharing? I'm not seeing the share button on. I mean, it's grayed out. Do you have to give me a permission to share? Now it is working. Sorry, now it's working. Okay. So, okay. So what I'm going to do is, you will also see that I'm using certain tools which I don't know whether you're familiar with or not, but I will touch those also as we go along. Okay. Let me just scroll down to the beginning of this whole thing. So what you will see, can you see a screen? Can somebody say what they're seeing on the screen? Abs. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Bravo.
No, I'll zoom in. I'll zoom in when it comes to that. Okay. So this is basically, yeah. So, yeah. This is a mind map actually. What you see on the right, yeah, on the right side is a mind map. Mind map is a tool which helps you to sometimes very systemically organize all your content in a particular way. Okay, so you can see everything in one shot. For those of you who are not familiar with mind map, okay, so I've just built this entire story in one picture now. Okay, whatever I'm going to narrate today. Okay, and what you see, okay, I'm going to skip what I'm the way I am going to do this is I am not going to run through every line item, every word in this document today. Okay, what I intend to do clearly is to show the overview, which is there on the right side, and go to specific areas. While I will touch some of those topics for sure, so that you get the flow right. Okay, and there are not too many of them, by the by, but you will see that there are some essential chapters, and I will touch upon them for sure. But I will spend a little more time on certain areas which is very closely related to the project part and the mechanisms and methods that you can use to do that. Will that work for all of you? I hope so. If not, just call out, because right now I'm not changing my screen to the video mode. Okay, the other one. I usually work with multiple screens, but today I'm not able to do that. Now, so be tuned in for what I say as to where to find what in the ebook as I touch upon different topics on the right side. Okay, so I'm going to go here. You see, on the right side, and I'll make it a little bit bigger, so when I move, it's easier for you. Yeah, I will do that. Okay. Give me a moment. A bit too open. Now I think it's clear. Okay. Yeah. So you'll keep seeing me, yeah, rolling this pointer left and right a bit here. Okay. And pardon me if I can't expand beyond that. I need to make sure that my laptop can see and handle both. Okay. Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah. Yeah. No, I can use the tab and I can flip it around, but yeah. Okay. Hmm. No, no. Yeah. No. Okay. No, I understand. Yeah, I don't want to lose time, ideally, in a lot of experimentation. If this is okay with you, let me continue. Okay. Okay, let me know how to do it then. Oh, sorry, I am not conversant. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah. So next time we will improve the presentation. I mean, this was a little bit, yeah, un, yeah, unanticipated, I should say. Okay. So, okay. So let me go through this. So we are here on the left side, which is the forward part. We have talked all about that. So I'm not going to get into that. Okay. What I'm trying to do is in this, as we go through this, there is going to be an illustrative example. Okay, and that illustration I will use repeatedly for every step that we have in this program. Through the illustrative example, we are going to simulate what we will build, but not with the same features. You got what I'm saying? I will give you every step that needs to go through that, okay, to build this product, which I'm saying here. But the steps you need to do to build the product that we eventually are going to work on will be the same. There won't be any change. At least that is what I aspire to do with this. Okay. We will have to be adaptive in our learning, and that's not what I meant. But I said this is how we can do this. All right. So I'm going to skip this. I'll go to the purpose of this material, which I already said. We will end up demystifying several key concepts. One of the most important thing in project management is, as a team, when we start working, we need to be conversant with the same language. What do I mean by language? The certain set of terms that we will use. Just like we use project, you use product, you can't mix them up, right? They mean different things. So in the industry, we always use standard terminologies for certain things. So that's what you need to be mindful of as you go through this journey. Pick up those terminologies. They're not Greek and Latin. Maybe it looks like initially if you use that terminology, but start using that. Okay, and slowly you will pick it up. It will become your normal language when you do projects. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, the operating model, basically, we will have, this is not all about only agile. We'll have some streams of waterfall that may be required initially to describe what it is, and I'll come to waterfall later. But waterfall sets the broader idea, the larger framework of what we want to build. It's like building the skeleton in this case, rather than not having a skeleton, because you will end up building something else. So you need to have a skeleton here, and that skeleton job will be done through the waterfall model. And just 1 second, please. Yeah. So that wall will be, I mean, that skeleton will build the waterfall model, and the details of what you do in the, you know, each part of that body. So like imagine your body you're building, right? You then have many things beyond the skeleton that you built. So you have your respiratory system, then you have your, digestive system, and so on and so forth. You know that I'm not going to explain the body parts. That's not what I meant. I'm saying each is a system, you will see, right? And those systems is what we will build. And those systems we will build using an agile model, and both we will explain a bit as we go along. Okay. So that's the operating model we are putting. So these two we will learn in a project management concept. Okay. And as far as project goes, we will see what are those 7 critical success factors that make a project successful. So it's not just about programming. It's not just about building a product. It's about getting the right product, the right way, in the right manner, because this product is still used. Imagine you getting a mobile. I think mobile is a wrong example. Most people nowadays know how to handle a mobile. But imagine, yeah, you got a complex machine, maybe a robot, and you didn't have an instruction manual. Then how would it look like? So an instruction manual at least tells you how to use. The same thing, if you had a repair, unless you had the design behind it very clearly available, okay, you would not be able to do a root cause, fix the design issues, and then do it. And why do we need that on a product? Because the product is going to be used and repetitively, and not every time you may get everything right. Sometimes there will be bugs, and those may be issues that come from different scenarios, etc. Okay, so we'll come to that later. So success principles involve some 7 key areas which I will talk about, and all those people have a all those nuances are there, which is very important from a project standpoint, from a product what you build, from a delivery and maintenance point of view, and for the users. Now, so understand what is the bottom line I'm trying to give you as a message here from the purpose is that imagine and believe that you are not the only one who's doing this, right? We are not working in silos. It's not just your team or myself or only the project stakeholders or only your academic staff. It's not like that. There are a lot of users and everybody derives something out of it. So what you put into it is something really very important for a lot of end users. Now, if it is not so, then it will fail. And once it fails, a lot of people stop using it, right? So this is what we need to talk about now. What this material will provide, your roadmap to success, you'll see, like I said, you get a little bit of a solid foundation. I talked about that earlier. The methodology, which means the waterfall and agile methodologies that will enable you to build the product correctly. And here we are talking about our own MVP. You'll have practical tools and techniques which you will have to use to make this process consistent and deliver the project requirements consistently. You will also bring in a little bit around collaboration guidelines. Okay, the biggest issue of them all, especially when teams grow, is communication. The biggest failure point, one of the biggest failure point is communication. Because if, like we said in the hand raising example, if all of us were doing it differently, then and not following the communication, we would not have got a consistent way to do it, and so we would have had different outcomes, which is sometimes predictable, sometimes unpredictable. Now, framework for continuous learning is the last one, where you will also know, fine, we have to continuously improve. Okay, we need to know, yeah, how things can be better. There might be new inputs that will come as we go along, and those new features, new learnings, okay, learnings from mistakes that we make, all of this can cause a problem. And so we need to have a continuous framework. It's never like, you mastered it all and that's the end of the story. It is continuous. Okay, now let me come to the next part, which is this introduction, how to maximize your learning from this ebook. I think you need to know all these things. This is where I'm spending a little bit of time. So bear with me. I know sometimes you're all impatient to get into the deliverable things. And I used to be like that once, but I realized that if we didn't get the basics well entrenched into our ways of working, at some other point in time, you will not go through this. I want this part to be really helping you to, shape up your mindsets, shape up your basic ways of working into this, and then the rest is actually easy. Because this is where the communication piece comes in. Very important that we all know that we have to work together in a particular set pattern. We have to work together, understanding each other's roles, and so on. Okay. So the structured learning path we will have after the product part is, which is, I'll spend less time on product because we already discussed SRS and other things. So I'll not be doing that, but I'll spend time on the key steps involved in the SDLC, which is the software development lifecycle. That's the process we will have to develop the product, and how a project will serve as the vehicle for bringing a product to life. Now, to do this better, just give me 1 second. I have something. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm back. So the third part is how we will do this part, the project part, and that's where I'll spend probably more time. STLC, yes, I will touch upon that, and then this. Now, you're not going to learn everything from me in one go today. That's too much to absorb. Okay, so we will go through what are important chapters. That doesn't mean you don't need to go through the others, but I'll tell you how you can leverage this better. Okay, this kind of information, because obviously when I buy a book, it's too much to read in one day. That's not how we are going to learn and master this. We will do it sort of agile way, and I'll tell you what it is. Okay. So with this kind of a thing, the step by step is you need to do a first read. Typically, I don't know how you have handled your academics so far, but one of the best ways I've learned over a period of time is to do the browsing, the quick browsing to know what's there. And that's why I asked you to only browse and come today. What is there inside this? What are chapters are there? What is lying where? And if I needed to know more information, which are the places I can quickly refer to? What is the overall story like? It's like running a high level story line about the whole thing. Okay, I hope you're following me. Somebody can open up and say, because if I change this, the entire screen goes away, so I can't see everybody necessarily. Yeah. uh,
Yes, Pradeep sir.
Thank you very much, that really helps. Just one sec, I am interrupted today, so yeah, I'm back. Yeah, sure. Yeah, this one. Yeah, okay, it's gone. This one, yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, but I still have to, yeah, I still have to keep doing this. Okay, never mind. That's all right. I hope it's clear. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ajit. Okay, sure. Okay, so what we do is first do a first read, which is foundational awareness. Just browse through the whole thing, say what it is saying. This session will help you to do that. At least you will know quickly what this quick browse means, because I'll send you this also eventually. So this mind map has a way where everything is listed. Okay, and then we come to the second dive. Keep staying to the left now. Okay, you then keep certain areas where you put as your focus areas. So after your initial read, you should revisit the material, then take one step at a time and deep dive. Again, if you read the whole thing, a lot of it will pass over your head after some time. It's only a eye level. So what I propose is to do stage by stage mastery as you build it. Sounds appealing? You're going to chew one at a time. Don't chew the entire food in one shot, right? You're going to do one step at a time. So what does this do is, you now that you have a foundational understanding through what I'm telling you, your first pass read, and a little bit of depth on certain areas which you think you got curious and you wanted to read more. Up to that is fine. Now you're into the stage 5. So when you do the work breakdown structure, we'll come back to that on the project side. What is a work breakdown structure? It's nothing but all the things. Like if I took the body structure, I said, no, there is a head, there is a brain, there is a heart, there is a organs and all that, and there is a system around what forms what. The digestive system takes care of these things, blah blah blah. All those things are there, right? So uh, yeah, so what you do is you take one at a time. You don't learn all the systems in one shot. If you're going to develop the digestive system, imagine the software for the digestive system, let's say, then that's all you take and learn. For that, you need to know what are the steps involved to do that part of it. So that is a work breakdown structure, because of the You have to build all the elements in the digestive system, right? To make a digestive system work. So those elements which you did is what you will keep, right? And for building all those things, what you need to do is what you will follow in this ebook. So here is how it goes. Yeah. See, for product focus sessions, you understand each step of the product life. So there is something called a life cycle. How many of you are familiar with the life cycle concept? How many of you are familiar with the life cycle concept? Anybody wants to go talk about it? Since I'm not able to see the screen, I don't know who is responding also. Sorry about that.
Are you speaking about the product life cycle or the software life
Yeah,
cycle?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is. It can be that also. What do you mean by a life cycle was my simple question. You can talk it in terms of product or whatever it is you say. That's, anybody wants to go on that? No? What I don't get is whether you know this concept or not, whether I have to explain it or not. That's my only struggle when somebody needs to open up their speaker and speak to me. That's okay. If you're saying something, because you see, I'm struggling with the screen now.
We are familiar with the SDLC. I mean, it was there as a part of a module in our data structures topics.
Okay, fine.
So yeah, essentially it's an iterative process for
Yeah.
solving a problem.
Yeah. So life cycle starts with a beginning and end and as an end, but so usually it cycles again if you start the process all over again. That's a very fundamental way. There is a life cycle for us, right? For this for product software products also. So for product also there is a life cycle. There is a time when we creation is one part, right? In a product life cycle. Very simply, you have to you have to figure out what you want. So your requirements gathering is one part of the life cycle, for example. And I'm trying to speak very simply at this point. You don't need to complicate it also, because most of things are foundational in nature. It's not difficult. Okay. And then after requirements is gathered, then you figure out how to put them all together into a design, right? In terms of, so you do the architectural kind of thing. So after the architectural kind of thing, you got a base view of what all you want to build and all that, right? So in a product life cycle, that is it. Then you actually build the product, whether you use process or whether you use project, all those things, no, it always is there. So product, process, all this. So we will build the project. All this is used to build the product. And once the product life cycle is done, you are able to take out the product and deliver all this. Okay. And then the next step is you will you will then convert the product life cycle to, I mean, the product that you have made, you will then take it to the next stage of delivery. So you will release, you will dispatch, you will start using it, the product starts functioning, and after the functioning part of it, you will then have some maintenance issue. Suddenly you find something is not working enough, well enough perhaps. Okay, so users are there. So all these things come into the product life cycle, and the product gets used, and the product gets deteriorated, the product gets improved, the product gets deteriorated, or some new features will come in, and eventually the use of the features of the product will start ending, because something new will come revolutionarily, right? A completely new set of products might come, and you see this all the time in the technology area particularly, right? And then this product goes into end of life, as we call it. Okay, so at that point in time, the product is sunset. Now, do you throw it away at that point? You still don't throw it away. Why? Because there are products already in the market which you are using, and you still need to maintain, right? So there is a time period until the products get exhausted, or the demand for that product is over, or people stop using that product until it is, and that's when that entire product life cycle ends. So you have to think, that kind of a thinking is what you need to make sure that the entire life cycle span is done. And I'm not telling you anything new. This is all something you would have experienced one point in time or other. And same thing is there as far as the life cycle for process is concerned. So that's where you have the software development life cycle. Since you already learned it, I guess I will not spend too much time at this stage. We will cover that as we go along. Okay. And then you have project focus sessions, which is all about management and governance. Okay. So you will learn this also a lot. Why do you need to manage something? Why do you need to govern something? So once you, so the entire thing of build has to be synchronized. You agree? You need to know what is the role of people. Who are the people who will build what? Somebody will build the digestive system. Somebody will build the respiratory system. It's not going to be the same people all the time, because then it will be very sequential. So sometimes you'll have to arrange parallel teams to cover each of those systems one at a time and build those, right? So you'll have multiple people. See, if anybody is chatting at this point, I may not be able to see the chat. So if you want to speak something suddenly, just open out, come out of mute and you can talk to me. Okay, if it's really urgent, no problem. Otherwise, just stay with me at this point in time because I'm walking you through this content at this point. So know where it is. So I'm trying to give you some concepts around, life cycle. And now you come to management and governance. So management is important because you need to know who are the resources, what is the work they will do. Are they going to do respiratory system, or somebody will do the digestive system or circulatory system, and so on, right? And then you will need to know whether you're going to do it in parallel and assemble all them together, or you're going to do them linearly, which means one at a time. And that depends on the strength of the resource. Now you got to coordinate all this, right? Including whether you're building the right thing in the right way, and whether you're delivering all of them in the right way, and whether the quality of the system is right, whether the integrity of the system is right. So these are all specific features. You have to remember these things, what I'm saying now, because that is what counts when you build something. You're going to build a lot of things. You're going to build this. So these are the important things that should be at the back of your mind, which is important, and not just pure technicalities. Technicalities is the level of detail that you are bringing into the product. But that alone will not suffice. You got to manage this in a manner that everything synchronizes well and the purpose is met. Okay. So then, how do you do this? You'll have team huddles. There's a collaborative learning and peer mentorship. All these things we will go through as we go along. Okay. So you need a step-by-step learning concept, which is what I was trying to say right now. Don't have to digest everything at the same time. Don't have to learn everything at the same time. When you start at the beginning, understand how a project is structured, understand your role in that project, understand what you will do and where to find the to-dos that you have to take care, which is within your role, right? And then you start working according to the process and instructions that you have. I am not covering the technical knowledge that you need to bring by ways of programming, the platform, and all those things in this book. That is the skill level you already have, or you will pick up further as you go along and cover those skill levels, gain those technical skill levels, or use this whatever you have to deliver the product. So I'm not covering that here. Okay. So don't look for that here as such. That's a different kind of a skill requirement, and as software, as engineers who are on the software platform and working on it, we have looked at the skills requirement, and we looked at already stating what they are and where you think the existing skills pool can be used. I had sent that earlier, so you can see, refer to that. Okay. I'm not covering those in detail at the moment. Now, uh, so the illustrative example is a full life cycle of another product, and we will cover that as well. Okay. Anybody knows what that product is? You want to talk about it? Skill Connect. You will see that here. Okay. This is all about something I call out as a Skill Connect product, and this whole storyline of all those chapters about how do you build a product, and that product is called Skill Connect here. But that's a very small scale, simple, okay, easy to build a product. I'm not asking you to build it. I'm only asking you to know the steps involved in building. So if you use the same steps in building the new product which we are looking for, you will be there. Okay. Any questions at this point until this? Are you clear? Just type C, clear, in your thing. Okay. If everything is clear, just type C. Okay. Now let me just skip all these things. We are going to get into the deep dive on certain areas now. The high level concepts are all clear. I will now just get into some of those things. So you'll see chapter 1 was all the foundation, the core concepts of product, project, process. I actually covered that here, but now it helps you. If you do a reading now, it will be much easier for you to understand what we covered. Okay. The second part which I'm getting to is defining the product, requirements and specification, and that is what I think we mentioned. I'm not getting into a deep dive today on this, but I've given you a essence of a product life cycle. I've told you what a product life cycle means. That's what you need to know essentially. Okay. And there's one thing which I miss saying. When you do a requirements, there's something called functional and non-functional requirements. Anybody wants to talk about functional, non-functional? You have learned it? Yes? Do you want me to go through that? I have a silence. Yeah, somebody can tell me, please, because I'm not
Yeah,
getting it.
functionalities and the other like the other requirements comes in non-functional requirements. So basic, the main things comes in the functional requirements. So
Correct.
I think we students have learned in the management of software systems subject.
Okay, yeah, okay, fine, great. Yeah, just keep me, updated because I don't need to get into those. It will consume some more time, which I don't want to ideally. I thought as much, but I still wanted to check before I went into. So the entire product thing is about, yeah, the specification, the requirements, the defining the functional and non-functional, getting clear with, the illustration is on Skill Connect. Skill Connect, there is something about Skill Connect I've written, what that product is like, which is more for an illustration purpose. Okay. Very simply, that Skill Connect is just a platform where people who want to live, it's something you can try in college or in academies. It's very good. You can, the product of Skill Connect is simply something that you build where people have a requirement. Let's say I want to learn physics from my peers. My teachers have gone through that, they keep covering it, but every time a new topic is touched, I want to learn from my peers also. So this product will help me to reach out and look at how many people who are good with physics and can teach me, for example. And so in my peer circle, my students, my friends, or whoever in the area, they will come and say, hey, I know this chapter by heart. I know Newton's 3 laws of motion very well. I can teach that. Okay, then I can go and search them out and they can teach me. So I can schedule, I can put my time, I can ask them to come in, and they will provide me that simple way, right? And in turn, the other person may be talking of, oh, I'm not well versed with chemistry, so I want to learn chemistry, and I say, hey, I'm good at chemistry, I'll give you that. So you will have eventually an inventory of people who will be amongst your peers who know certain subjects better than others because they're good at that. Everybody can't be good at everything in all the subjects. So they facilitate, and you can search out who has what, through the system, and you can connect with them, schedule with them, and they will teach you. And you can learn that subject. So it's something like that, very fundamentally. Okay. So that's a skill connect concept, a product. And for that, building such a kind of product, what is required is what you might find as illustration. But again, use the illustration as a ways of learning. If you wanted to develop a research product, for example, how would you do it? Okay, I hope you're with me. We'll take some example there and cover that as we go along. Now, let's go to the second part, which is STLC, and then we have project, and then we are done. Okay, more or less. Some key elements are important to know. So in the STLC concept, again, because you know most of it, it's covered in your syllabus. Again, I am not getting into all this. I will straight away jump into that 3.1 session of STLC and cover some of the key areas. How do I find it here? I use this index. Yeah. This chapter 3 is the software development life cycle. So you will see as I scroll down, Okay, I'll come to section 3. Yeah. Can you say this? Software development lifecycle in action. So this is a very practical way to do it. What I have done here, you will see and explain what I have done. Okay, I'm not going to go through all the line items, but you will see there are around 6 steps, I think. One is requirements gathering. Okay, I call them what actually. Okay, what do you want to do? I have six steps. Okay, one is requirement gathering. The second is the design. Okay, the third is implementation coding. Just shout out if something is not being seen or I'm going too fast. Okay, no problem with that. And if you're not following also, please tell me. Just come out and say I didn't follow this. Okay, that's all right. So the third step is about implementation and coding after the design. Fourth is about then testing. So we have built something, we want to test whether they work and satisfy those things. And when you test it in different ways. That's the essence of testing. We'll come to that. And then because people use a product in different ways. If I drive a simple car is a product, right? Now I might drive a car in a particular way, you might drive it in a particular way. Let me explain one more step why I call it particular way. Both of us have learned driving, but let's say I'm driving in thick of a traffic and you're driving in a road which is typically non-traffic. Now, I might be using the clutch so many times. So my driving style has become using the clutch a lot. Your driving style, because you're running on the highway, is a less usage of clutch. Now, what happens to the clutch as a product inside the car? One clutch will deteriorate faster than the other because the usage is different. The style of usage is different. That's what I mean. Yeah. So, how do I want to test the clutch? When I'm taking a new car, I have to test different ways, right? I have to see if I use it very often in a city condition, will it pass that endurance required? That's one kind of thing, right? So you will have different kinds of testing environments. So that's why I call it, you test according to scenarios. Then you have deployment. Once you've tested, you know it's good for use. Yeah, it is meeting the criteria of not just the functional and non-functional requirements. It is also meeting other criteria of sustainability, durability, maintainability, all those things. Then you are good to deploy. So deploy is when actual users come into the picture and start doing it, using it. And then you have a maintenance, because when users start using it, there will be some problem or the other. In software, we always call them bugs and all that. And so when bugs happen, you have to maintain and get it fixed. And sometimes, I don't know whether you heard about patches. Obviously, you would be. So people run patches. Okay, patches are smaller programs that help you to fix the bug. And if you don't apply those patches, it's a big problem in the industry. Just for your information, yeah, many times you need to a running system has to be sometimes stopped. That means I have to bring halt to an application or some portion of it for XYZ reasons to put a patch, whether it's a hardware patch or a software patch, whatever. At that time, what happens? If your application is not running, then your engine is stopped. Something is stopping. Sometimes in manufacturing processes, in large industries. And so you can't stop the manufacturing process, because in certain industries, for example, I was in Philips. There was this glass industry, and you cannot turn down the glass furnace, where the glass is melted. If you turn it down, it takes months together before they can bring the thing to the same temperature for melting it. And that's a huge loss to the organization. To understand some of this, I'm telling you some practical things, and I'm giving you a bigger impact ones, essentially to get you a better appreciation of these bugs. You'll say, okay, I will anyway fix it with a patch. What's the problem? This is the problem. You can't always apply patch unless you plan for it very carefully and making sure that things don't stop running. So it is a big impact in a glass plant, for example. You can't turn down the furnace unless it is really planned, unless you have an alternate furnace, for example. So you need two now instead of one, right? One will run, one can be used when you want to build it. It takes several weeks to month to build that kind of a heat. So that was a big learning for me. I didn't know at that time until I visited a glass plant. Okay, so some bit around implications. So when you do maintenance, these things also come into the picture, that you don't just make it a software bug and say, okay, if I put a patch, it's so easy, it's done. On the ground, some of them are difficult to put it. Okay. Okay, so I hope that's okay. Those are the 6 steps in the SDLC which I have captured, which will take you through the deployment of the product, making the product, deploying the product, testing it before deployment, and eventually the maintenance that might come as a result of different usages. And this second column here talks to you about how these steps will be carried out. So it outlines the key task. And you can use waterfall or agile models actually to meet this stage. Okay, but essentially what it means is that you might use either of waterfall or you might use agile. Now in our MVP we're going to use both, because certain parts, like I told you, the skeleton we use the waterfall, and let's say all the rest of the things that make it a proper structure we will use agile. Okay, completing the structure, all the finesse, all the other things, that features that we want to build come from agile. Okay, so this is the first step. Second step, again you see, so the third column is all about what methodology I will use. The project methodologies we are unwinding here is essentially about waterfall and agile, but it's more of agile. So waterfall is just limited in some places, and you will see that as I build it. And the other one is about architectural design and the detailed design. So again, you can use any of this in terms of how you get there. Similarly, for each of the steps, I have actually given you what you use. For implementation, you write source code, right? You have the API part for integration. You have the right source code for backends also. And Skill Connect is the product name, as I said, which is the mock product name I'm referring to in this, which we're building. And implement secure coding practice. So there's a question around, yeah, why secure coding practice? Anybody wants to take that? Or if we didn't implement secure coding practices, what will happen? What if we didn't implement standards? When you develop this is a place where you need standards. The process example I said is also part of a standard, because there's certain ways to do it. The standard gives you the minimum specification. What if you allow a bulb manufacturer to make bulbs in different ways? There won't be any standard, right? Each bulb will look different, a customized version perhaps. And eventually you will not know which bulb, what went into which bulb and how it was built and all that, because if you're using different components, you will lose traceability. Understand what I'm saying? You will lose traceability after some time. Or if you want to build a traceability itself, it's a big job. Who is going to sit and put all this documentation of a traceability of a design, just because 10 people who build bulbs in a factory built it in 100 different ways. Each time they followed their own instinct. So that's where standards come into the picture. Industry standards. You know industry standards, right? You will see even common things. You will see ISI Mudra, for example, right? There is FSI, food standard. Similarly, there are software standards. Right? And you will have to refer, it's platform dependent also, by the way, right? Which platform needs what kind of standards to build products using that platform, using that language, using the coding, all that. So you need to follow that. And why secure? We don't want people to come in and hack the system because of its vulnerabilities, as we call it. Yeah, we are talking vulnerable applications because we didn't build a proper defense mechanism on key areas of vulnerability. And one of the most significant area of build is always on user access. Though it might look very simple as a concept to understand, making sure that people can't decode your password and get in easily, or find a way to copy your user ID and password and get in easily at the backend through these models. Okay, so you need to have secure coding practice at every stage. I only covered one user functionality, like a user access management, but you will need that in several other functionalities as well. Okay. So secure things, you will always get it through the ISO practice. For example, ISO 27001 talks about information security and how you protect information. So you will eventually get to know that certain parts of that is has to be built into the development of the product. It's just like when I'm building my house, I have to put keys. I have to decide where I need my cupboards. I need to decide where I'll need my drawers. I need to know where I will put my locks, whether I should put one lock or a double lock, whether it should be obvious to a person coming and seeing it or should it be disguised. All these things will be there. So the same thing with software as well. I'm giving simple life examples so it's easy for you to relate to that in case you're not come through some of this, because these are also all known industries. Not necessary that the IT industry, these details always are known everywhere. So that's the reason I'm doing this kind of everyday examples, which is much more easier for us to know. But you will find the same kind of thought process in the examples of Skills Connect I have picked up here. Okay, we will talk about that. So as you go through this, you will find these things in the software development life cycle. Okay. So if you look at here, you see you will use an architectural design that gives you a basic elements of what systems will be there in order to get the effective outcome, just like respiratory system, all those things I talked about. In this, we will talk about what set of systems like that will eventually deliver the output that we are looking at. Okay. Uh, any questions so far? I'll just, because I'm going to the third and final stage now. Any questions, please?
No, it's clear.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for confirming. Okay, so if you go through this chapter, this thing entirely on the SDLC, you will also talk about other key things like the UI and the UX, API design, okay, the database schema, and so all these things you will have to cover when you go through this. There's nothing I think that really needs an exclusion in the kind of project that we are doing. So it's quite easy for you to connect with many of these things, but if you struggle with any of those things, I think we are all here to help you. Okay, so go through this, the database schema, some examples are there, how you do a user table, and these ones are essentially for the example that I took. Okay, the this what did I call that? This, yeah, the skills, the prototype example that we're talking about. So everything is related to that, and I just try to make sure that I have used the most current set of things that you would normally bring in as your API profile. You see this, the sequence of how it is driven, the post, the get, all those kind of things when you do the design. Okay, so these are just examples. Don't take it as comprehensive. It is just helping you to understand how you go stage by stage. When you go to the implementation and coding stage, again, you'll see the coding standards have been kind of given how you should be doing. I have a separate chapter which I can give you if you wanted to know, oh, what are those coding standards? But I thought may not be so important for you right now. Okay, I have some write up there on coding standards, but right now I'm not package that into this. But you will know that you have to use certain coding standards relevant to what you're using as your platform and languages and all that. See, here we're talking of JavaScript, you're talking of backend is Python, okay, and so on. Then you're talking of, yeah, all specifications that you might bring in. The maximum line length is 100 characters. So these are level of details that you will have to put into the standards. Error handling, how will you do it? Secure coding practice, which I already talked about, right? Involving techniques to prevent normal vulnerabilities, okay, and making sure. And eventually, when you do the testing for this, you also get into pen testing and other things, as you may be aware, okay, to see that these vulnerabilities we can actually validate with pen testing. So if you built it right, you can do that. Now, input validation and sanitization. So this is the example when a student, and this is the same product now which you're talking of, Skill Connect. So in Skill Connect, let me do you one example just so that you get the flow right. Okay, you see, when a student enters subjects into their profile or types a message, all input is validated on both the client side for user experience. I'm reading it deliberately, okay, and critically on the server side to prevent malicious code from being injected. So you see how the security is being built into this example of the Skill Connect product. Okay, and similarly for password, you're hashing, you're salting, all those kind of things that will be looked into to ensure that your password protections and design are appropriately done. The design is good to protect. Let me put it that way. If you think through the hacker's mindset, you will know typically how they break in, and if you know how they break in, you know what is the areas to be strengthened, right? If I were to estimate how a thief would operate on my house for all the billions of jewelry I kept there, for example, then I know how to defend it, right? But many times I don't know. That's the problem. If I ignore it, saying the thief will always enter only through the front door or through the window, I have limited my options of how a thief will think. In today's thing, it's all about how you hoodwink people, right? So all you need to know is your password or create a duplicate key and you can enter. So yeah, so think of that, then illustrations are still here, continuing integration for Skill Connect. So now you see this part again, how you integrate. Okay, the developer commits, which is, let's say, a student A completes the Skill Connect login code and pushes their changes to a feature branch. Okay, now there's an automated trigger that needs to go, which the GitHub or say detects the new code and push it. So here I'm putting the level of technical and functional details, combining them to see how they operate. Then you do build and test. The CI system automatically pulls the latest code, builds the Skill Connect application, runs all the predefined automated tests like unit test integration. So I'm just giving you how you can find these things, how it is done for the particular prototype which we are talking of as Skill Connect, and then use the same method, but relevant to your set of application, relevant to your platform, relevant to your language for the MVP that we are building. I hope that's clear. Okay. And in testing stage also, you will find there are three kinds. Usually you'll have unit testing, you'll have system testing. Yeah, so there are different kinds of testing that you can do. System testing, your performance testing. Okay, so performance testing essentially to see how much of performance. The clutch example was a perfect performance kind of testing I gave you, for example. Yeah, system test is whether it's all working, all the units are working, is everything working. Once you integrate, it's all working. So there's an integration part also in the testing. When I create a digestive system, for example, I create and test and say, hey, I created the digestive system, it's working. And somebody said, hey, I created the respiratory system and it's working. Somebody said, I created the circulatory system and it's working. But when you put it together, it's not working. The human life is not coming in. Something is not working. That's integration for you, right? When you put them together and you were supposed to do it, it's not working. And you need to figure out where. So it could be problem with the interfaces. It could be the problem with, how they are connected. And there your APIs, all those things start coming in maybe, where you're pushing data, the data is not moving right, or the data was not refreshed properly, or when you do data exchange, as sometimes the data thing happens only, is operated only once a day. Maybe it's not so critical to have live data every second, it's too costly, so you want to do it only once a day, but the system did not refresh for whatever reasons. So those are all coming through integrated testing options when you start doing it. Okay, usability testing comes from a user standpoint, so you'll start giving it eventually to a user, and so end user testing, and see when an end user is doing it, how do they operate it. Sometimes what happens here, very important to know, is end user doesn't know how to operate properly. I buy a brand new Apple, mobile, but there are so many features, and I never knew how to operate it. So, 80% of mobile features sometimes are never used by the average buyer because they didn't know how to use it. Everybody trial and error and did all that, or ask somebody, said how to do it, and they did it. Seldom they come with manuals also, because nobody looks at it. It's a kind of given easy thing what people feel. But give it to, let's say, for example, elderly people. How many of your elderlies in your home really can operate your mobile everything? I go to my grandmother. Do you think they can do it? No. They will need some basic elements of instruction to be able to do. So if you ask such a person to test something, what is the extent to which they will test? Only to the extent of their awareness of their usage. Now, is that the usage target segment that you are using for that end product? If that end product, the usage is meant for maybe all you millennials, somewhere between the age of 20 to 40 years, or 20 to 45 years, then that is the user environment which will be the most relevant, because that's the set of target users you are expecting to use the product. And therefore you need to find such users to be able to go do it. I'm giving you practical insights of how it should be thought through. Don't give it to people who seldom use it, who don't even know. So you will never have tested that functionality enough in your beta testing. Okay, so I've talked about alpha and beta testing also. You can go through that somewhere, what does it mean. And we're covering we're coming to the end of the second chapter, which is the biggest chapters. Other ones are much easier. I think we are good with time also so far, I think. Okay, so you see there's alpha testing, beta testing. I'm going slowly so you can see all that. And then I build these tabular structures. Tabular structures are easy for us to navigate information. That's what I found in my experience, so I'm using that. Okay, so here are templates I given you, which you can use for actually doing the testing. Okay, so these are standard templates. Now what would I do? I wanted to know whether these templates really work. So I started filling in the data and see whether you can actually fill up. So it gives you a guidance on what is expected to be filled out in each of these areas. You say business requirement, you see there will be a complete description of what FRUM means, but a short description says it's registering the account. You might want to expand that separately, and when you did the requirements, but you know that this essentially means this. Then you have a little bit of a description that you're verifying whether a new student can register. Again, in the context of skills connect is what I'm talking about. What are the preconditions for doing this? Okay, what are the steps to execute? What is an expected result that you want to see? So this is very serious thing, because if you did not envisage or visualize the kind of results that you wanted consistent with the requirements and tried out all opportunities of a use case, you will never be able to do a proper, give a proper test outcome. There will be many areas that are open. Only when people actually start using those things, they will find sometimes problems which you have not addressed perhaps in the build. And this is an iterative thing. You will get defects. You will have to make a defect table. You have to find the root cause of what happened. If the root cause is something to do with code correction, you have to do all that, fix it, come back, test it again, and then go back to this cycle of testing. So all that has to be captured. These are important records you have to keep. Why? Because it's part of a build cycle. Tomorrow, if certain things happen, especially when you're tracing bugs, it's very important to know what level of testing. It's even a compliance requirement sometimes. I don't know whether you know. Compliance essentially is meeting regulatory law, legal requirements, statutory requirements. Now, sometimes in certain compliance requirements like data privacy and all, which you would have heard by now, or which you've touched those subjects, you will know that that requires certain degree of how systems have been tested. If your testing doesn't cover data privacy properly, for example, you are likely, not only because of the breach that might have happened on the data getting leaked, you will also have investigations into what happened. And sometimes you'll say you never put a proper system in place, and that adds additional penalties to the whole thing. And what happens when all this happens? You lose your credibility in the market. People don't want your product because they say, oh, they had a legal issue, number one. Number two, they don't have proper systems to test it. So effectively, I don't trust them for my data, my private data. So I'm not going to go to them. I'll make sure that I'm not going to go to them. I won't use that app. That company's products. It can go up to that. Sometimes you are prevented from, even by legal, to stop working in certain places because of that, until these things are done. And it happens all the time, all industries. If you're keeping on looking at If you have an eye for these things, you would have found several kinds of news coming in, be it automobiles, be it any industry for that matter, medical industry, and so also in the IT industry. Because IT industry is supporting all these other industries. And if you make mistakes here, because you not tested it, because you didn't simulate those conditions, or you didn't figure out such test requirements were there, you are in for trouble. So this is very important part, that you test it robustly, looking at all the testings that we talked about. Okay? Then you are ready for deployment. Once you qualified your testing, you know it's good, you know you've done your alpha, beta, and all that. You can now safely deploy that product, because now you're confident it works, and it has, yeah, as far as you know, there are no security issues because they've all been thoroughly tested, and so on. So that's a deployment stage, and I think for deployment also there are certain steps. So I've covered very clearly. You know, you have a test, and you know the separation of environments, hopefully. Yeah. So this is the deployment environment. In the previous one, it was test environment. So they are kept separately, okay? And the deployment environment is your real live environment, where we actually, we call it production environment also. So that's where things work. It is posted there, it is hosted there. And although everything usage is happening through that. So how to do it is, there is a particular set of steps to follow to make sure that you can get into the production environment properly. Okay, because what happens is, many times this is not the only thing you deploy. You will end up deploying multiple things in there, and if they are interconnected, then obviously you have to make sure that when it gets into production, you are taking care of those. All good so far?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so every chapter has a glossary for that chapter, because for ease of reference. But I also kept a glossary for the entire book at the end of it. Okay, so that also you can use. Anytime, let's say, you get confused with certain terms. Okay, UAT, for example, let's say I didn't know. Then this is a quick reference for me to start with. So you will get, see, when you're trying to do the initial browsing and you come across some abbreviations you don't know, this glossary is going to help. Now, finally, we're coming to those things around how the project is structured. You got the software process, you know the methodologies of waterfall and agile, and we're coming to those agile parts in the project here. So this is important from that perspective. Okay, so the first thing you always do is lay the design for success, and it's called a document. It's all put into a document called project charter. I hope you've heard of this term. If not, you need to just read this part very clearly as to what a project charter does. But it's your North Star, essentially. What do I mean by North Star? Is the place to figure out how a project is structured, what is the purpose of that project, what it will do, who are the people, what is the organization structure around the project for the project to work effectively. Okay, so it gives you all these things. You see, there's a project purpose, justification, you can, I hope you can see the titles. The project objectives are there. Okay, it gives you very specific target and start and end dates of the project. I told you project is temporary, which means it has a start and end date. At the end of that, the project is over, completed, you built the product and you have deployed it. Okay, and then it's handed over to people in the maintenance who will handle the maintenance for that application. Sometimes we call it DevOps team these days, because both the development team and the ops team who maintain it post deployment, they are the same. They know how they build the product, they know how to fix the product when something goes wrong. So it gives us kind of best of both worlds, keeping such things. In reality, it's not easy. There are many things that affect the ways of doing proper DevOps. So that's a different topic in the software world, especially in operations. How do you develop and manage and use teams effectively? So sometimes practically few people are kept who have done the create, and then others move on, because you need to have other projects to be built with the same skill. So when you have a lot of resources in an organization handling multiple projects, you can't keep the same team in a DevOps group, same set of people in a DevOps group forever. And it also kind of brings redundancy to the people's development overall. So those are some practical insights I'm giving you, right, in terms of the industry, what happens. But essentially, you will look at DevOps as a means to run projects effectively and get the right kind of people there who can fix things faster because they've been in the dev cycle also, apart from maintenance. Okay, so you will also have a high level scope. Scope is very, very important in project. Why is scope important in project? Can somebody talk about that? Anybody wants? Anybody knows why scope is important? See, scope is the boundary. If I say I play volleyball in two volleyball courts, will it work according to the rules of the game? It doesn't work, right? So the boundary is set by the boundary set in the court. In cricket, we draw boundaries for 4, for 6, whatever, right? For the crease, and so on. So similarly, these projects have boundaries. What you will do, what you will not do. Both are important. What you will do and what you will not do when it comes to development. Why is that important? Because if you keep adding more and more features without the stakeholders' awareness and consent, you're not prepared with the same budgets, right? If you want to develop 10 more features, you need another 20 resource. How does it look like? Your cost has gone up, your resources have gone up, the timing has gone up, and we've not even evaluated whether all those things are required by the end user properly. You're just adding more and more features because you are so passionate with that and you decided to keep doing it, maybe. That's not what we're looking for in project. It's business. So you got to keep it under very specific project definitions, which is time bound, budget bound, user requirements, and phase bound, as we call it. Phase because in the first phase you will release something, 5 features. Phase 2 maybe this period to this period where you release another 3 features, and so on. Okay. Without the first 5 features, it is pointless to have the next 3 features. So you have sequenced it. So the priorities are decided by the project charter. So did not, as a team, simply pick on new things. That's the key thing I'm talking about. Don't pick up new features, don't pick up new things without the governance in shape. So the governance, I said, right, is a mechanism of how stakeholders and teams together know what is being built. So if for example, yeah, Dr. Ajitji didn't know as a stakeholder what you're building. I mean, he said this is what we build. ABC is to be built. You added an A1, B1, C1 into it. Okay, you added that. Now you're above the scope. And suppose you decided, no, this feature is not important. So I made it A-1 on some things, yeah, in the feature A. That is also not a proper scoping. So you got to stick to the scope. If you're doing a change, there's something called change management, which I'll talk about later. And that is another way to make sure you're in control of how the project is developed, how features are changed, how something is added or deleted, and so on, right? So you see here clearly what is in scope, what is out of scope, all that is written. It's very important when you're working as a team. You're not allowed to do, even if it was the best thing to do, according to you, you cannot add on features unless you use the change management model. It's very important. Okay? But sometimes, there are very, very minor things, which is all about fixing things that you could do. That's the extent of knowledge and skill that you will apply. So you can keep informed your project lead and say, look, there was few things which were small things. I fixed it. That's a fix. It's more of some coding error which I done. It's not out of scope. It's just that I have added some fixes to make it happen work. But I still keep it informed. I still keep it on record. Okay. So risk management is a very important part in projects, therefore. Yeah, and that yeah, you can read through. Let me know what kind of things. I'm going to skip that. I talked about data privacy as a risk, for example, but there are performance also and so many other things which is there. Scope creep, as we call it, which I talked about, is when more things get added to the scope without realizing that you're actually adding to time and budget, and perhaps not so essential features also sometimes. Okay, it's just because somebody said, people, end users sometimes screen for the wrong reasons. They are affected only for something. They think that's the biggest thing because they had only that much vision. Whereas when you went to the management, they said, oh, this is not very important. Yeah, you don't need to make this change now. You can do it next year. So that's when that change will happen, right? Now, roles and responsibilities I taught. Now, in this, you will have to define those roles very clearly. So, when you go through this part, make sure you know who is the sponsor, who is the senior leadership, who is going to manage your project when it comes to development, who has got control on what is your authority in decision making. Everybody can't make the same decisions. Not possible to run a project where everybody makes decisions. Everybody must make the decision that's in their charter, in their scope, in their role. So you have to work in unison to those things when you are building things. Okay, so you need to be very clear the line of authority of who can decide what. Yeah. Uh, yeah, you need to know who is the product owner. Like I said, the person who has complete accountability with regard to uh, the product feature, the functionality, why you're doing this in this project, in this product, that person becomes the product owner, which means if something goes wrong with the product owner is ultimate, what I call as accountability, not just responsibility. It's like the CEO position of the product. Okay. So the CEO of the product is a product manager. Think like that. Then you get into Scrum. Scrum is the method of delivering agile things. So there's a Scrum Master also, for example. Now the Scrum Master role is largely facilitating the process, the STLC process, which you talked about, and facilitating the methodology, which is usually the agile. Scrum comes with agile. So it's a terminology started using only when agile came. So they orchestrate how the agile things work like an orchestrator. Okay. Uh, Dr. Ajit ji, I wanted to do a time check. Okay. Uh, uh, okay. So we were scheduled for yeah, let's ask everybody, because if people are getting saturated, it's a evening time also. Then I can break this up and you get a chance to go read through up to what we have covered so far. And we'll do the second one as part two if it works for you. But I am okay. I have the energy to do it through. But that's because I've created this program. You are listeners. Okay. Yeah. So that may not be the same set of energy across. Okay. Let me know what do you want to do?
Ajit sir, I think we can do in two parts, that if we don't, like information doesn't get, let's get blocked. So I think right now I think we have, Pradeep sir has given a lot of information which is going through our brain. So probably we'll give, let's say, a day break, and then we have the next session, I think.
Absolutely. Now I take it. That's why I was asking basically, because I was thinking that we have spent some time. But next
Pradeep
one will,
sir,
yeah,
yeah,
please.
just yeah, you were initially you were defining the term project.
Hmm. Yeah,
So the two key terms you two key terms you mentioned, was one was the budget and the timeline.
yeah.
So is there anything else apart from this? This I've been hearing all the time, that is budget and the timeline are the two key things. So is
Hmm.
there something different from these two key components for a project?
There are, no, that is what I said. There are 7 factors if you look at, okay, from a project standpoint, for a project type. Who are we doing the project for is important, right? So there's a
No,
purpose
no,
behind the project.
yeah,
Those
stakeholders,
matter.
or yeah, I've seen that.
Hmm.
But the thing was, when we define projects, we always highlight the budget and deadline.
Very true, because that project is brought for a fixed time. You see, many times I'll give you very simply. How do I do this? Yeah, let's say you want to build um, a computer room in your college. Okay, simple example. Now, that's a project because you have to build it. You have to decide what kind of computer room, where it has to come, how it is going to be built, all those things. Eventually, you will deliver the computer room. So it's a fixed time frame. And you said, this is the time I want it. I want this starting from September of 2025, and the rooms has to be completed maybe by February 2026. I'm just making it up. Okay. So you have something like that. So that's a project. Now you define what you want. That's part of the project. Now, for a computer room, you will typically have to then say, what are the resources in that? What do you mean by a computer room? You have to define, right? So that is a product, essentially, right? The entire computer room and what you put in is a product. Now, to build that product, you have defined the timeline. Now you have to define the method. So the method comes in, and you will have to decide, let's say you want to do waterfall or agile, which means if you were waterfall, simply saying you knew exactly what all should be there in the computer room, you knew where it has to be placed, all those things. But if it was agile, you had no clue where to put the computer room, let's say, when you started. You then started searching for a place to find where a computer room can be rigged up. Then you decided the physics lab, or some lab which you had, or a, yeah, some lab has to be moved somewhere else because that other place is good for lab. Lesser space is also okay for lab. But a computer room, you wanted a bigger one. You had to put the AC and other things and whatever, resource infrastructure, server, blah blah blah. Let's say. So what you want to put comes in an agile mode now, more or less, right? Because you're not framed. Yeah. If you were clear, then it was a waterfall. I'll say, okay, I just need one server. My design says this. I can put it in this room, and I want to construct this room because here in this place where there's enough space, and I can construct it there. So that's how there is a clear definition of the methodology coming in. So in a project, you must have methodology clearly, right? What suits you. Sometimes you'll do both. Then from the methodology, you come to, okay, it has to happen. All of this needs to happen from an end user perspective. The computer lab should be usable. You have other things to do in a project, which is communication. All I'll cover that in the next session, which I've not yet covered. But in project, you need to do all that, right? Because without communicating, how do you know when the computer lab will be available for use? When will people be trained to be faculty of computer lab, or maybe hiring? You want to hire people for the computer, for the computer room separately. Now your hiring is not started. Now all of this eventually translate to budget, time, and resources. Correct? So those are important aspects that you will keep as part of the project framework. And it has to be coordinated, synchronized, and done well. And that's where your governance and management elements come in. And we'll cover that, obviously. I mean, there's some more steps in this whole thing. It's not just about building the computer. So that's what we think. I built the product called a computer room based on whatever design was approved. And that's all it takes. Now, in a project, you're taking care of beyond just the physical building blocks of a computer room. I don't know whether I've answered your question or you still have some room for doubt.
No, no. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, most welcome. So, okay, so let's do one thing. Today, I'm not going to ask any questions, but the next time, I mean, am requesting you to be, I will be also having a better infrastructure next time. I struggled today for XYZ reason. My monitor couldn't be up, but I'll make sure that I will be in a better frame where I can handle both. So what happens is I'll see on one side, yeah, the interaction piece on one thing, and I'll have both these windows open, which I want to use side by side, predominantly to show what is lying where, because this was the first time we are going through this. Next time I don't have to do that. For example, after 2-3 rounds, I'll just have to say section 3.3. You will say section 3.3.5 is what I want to talk about when you have a question. It's easy because references is what helps you to go to that particular relevant part and talk more specifics on that particular area where you have a question or you have a better understanding requirement. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so let's try to bring this down for today. Curtains, we have 5 more minutes. And what I thought I will use is just let's take a quick round to say anybody has anything to say or ask about what happened today. Are you completely clear with how to go through the sessions till what has been taken today? Don't go beyond that. Your quick browse you can do still. My first step in how to leverage this ebook properly, that you still do. But the rest of the things, you can go just in deep to the extent we went today and see whether it makes sense. Are there new questions? Is there anything that you're struggling with a concept? And also just think about, yeah, if you're building a software all these illustrative steps that I have put there, correct? Is that working for you in your mind? You're able to see, if you have a what do you call building blocks, and you play the game of building blocks, and a picture is in front of you to build a house. Yeah, the roof is red in color, the foundation is this color, the walls are like this. This is where I want the door. You will build it, right? So you can visualize that once you start playing with that. Similarly, I want you to start visualizing the product, yeah, the MVP that we are going to create with the SRS as you go through this. So understand the concept is very important. Knowing the steps is already there. Visualizing those steps to see whether I can actually do the building blocks and it is making sense to me is the third part. Then the doing comes after that. All good? Anyone, any questions? Are you clear with the
Yes.
homework also? Are you clear with the homework, everyone? No, you need to do this, because without doing that, it will be a big struggle for you to manage the building, because you are going to do it in random phases. But what you learn now will cement yourself in your ways of working, and therefore everybody will start following it in the right way. Yeah. Yeah, because I have the option to change the way I'm presenting to you or interacting with you as well. If it's, yeah, yeah, right. Is he on mute? I think he's on mute, maybe. Are you on mute as well?
Jai Krishna,
No. Yeah, now clear.
Jai Krishna, can you?
Yes, ma'am. I have a positive view on the session itself. It was a wonderful session. Actually, I went through the initial pages of the ebook, and I did have some difficulties, understanding certain parts of it. And but I think after this session, I can go through it better. I can develop an understanding better, and overall, it was a wonderful session. Many concepts. I mean, I learned a lot of things, and towards the end, it was an information overload of sorts. But I think it was a wonderful sessions, and yeah, it'll contribute a lot to the project.
Thank you.
No, sir, it was wonderful itself, and yeah, and it was I mean, not 100% interactive, but still it was an interactive session. So it was not boring and all. It was fun, and yeah, only the information overload part was kind of this, but it was still fun nonetheless.
Hey, thank you, Jai Krishna. Let me give you a quick one-liner response for that. Okay. And my one-liner response for you is that um, don't get, I mean, you don't need to feel overwhelmed, because that is the first initial thing that you always see. Suppose, yeah, 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 you're probably looking at a huge thing trying to be put across in one shot and all that. You're trying to, that's normal. So don't feel worried about it. I don't want anybody to feel worried about overwhelming. The reason is, after this initial round of things, when you start doing it, you will do it step by step. Okay, step by step, as in, you will, for if you take agile for instance, right, you will do a step by step model for that. And when you do that, that's the time you will deep dive and learn the concepts in action. And when you do something in action, like, when you do cycling, when you watch it first time, you will wonder how people are balancing. No longer a miracle these days, right? Once upon a time it was. Okay, so same way, Then the second step is when you actually start doing it, you fear that you will fall down, let's say initially, unless somebody is holding it. And then the third stage is when you're actually doing it, you will suddenly master it. You will feel very comfortable, and one day you will just keep your hands off and say, hey, I can balance like this also without without even holding the handle of the bicycle. So you will go through those phases. That's a learning phase always. So don't worry about it. But what I would say is, as you go through those topics, if you have any questions, write them down somewhere and then see whether those are getting answered as you go along. If they don't, then you need help and feel free to come to us anytime saying, I have not got this concept, or I'm not able to figure out how to apply this into my prototype. Even with I've given an illustration, but even with that, if it's not working, that's the second thing. Third is we will actually work it through the real model when we build it, and by that time you'll be there. So it's okay to have a little bit of discomfort zone. That's what I'm saying. It's important in your learning journey. Don't worry about it. But what I was looking for as feedback was also to see, is there anything in my narration style, in my facilitation style, in the documents that I gave, which you think you cannot try or do? If that happens, please let me know. That is a very important feedback I want, because then we will change the style, or we change the way we will cover these topics in a little bit different way, so that it is easy for you. Okay? Does it make sense? Jai Krishna? You're not able to hear me. Drop. Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you very much then. Over to you, Dr. Rajib, or anyone for that matter. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is correct, correct.
I think Doc. Correct. Yeah. And that's why I was trying to build everyday examples, not necessarily software stuff. Okay. But let's see. Yeah. I mean, I see Dr. Varun has a raised hand. If I am not
No, 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 it got accidentally clicked. Sorry.
accidentally. Okay. Okay. No worries. Yeah. And it's on demand. Yeah, I am okay anytime. So let's see when the availability is. Do you want to do it this? Today is what, Tuesday only. So you can finish it this week if you want. But if you think people, and I asked the students there to say, yeah, if we can manage that, then we can do one session this week, and that will cover the entire Agile and Scrum part. We can take this example in detail. So that's the one which we
Ajit
get.
sir, yeah, I think we'll take an opinion from the students and get back to you tomorrow. Cynthia ma'am will get back to you tomorrow.
I think
Yes, yes. Tomorrow she'll get back. Check with
perfect.
all the students and get back.
That's okay. I think that'll be fine.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, and yeah. So yeah, give us some feedback tomorrow after you have your internal session to see if there's something change you want to make in the way we are doing it. I'm happy to take input. Okay. I have the Google form, but I thought we will take it at the end of the session is what I was thinking once we finish. But if you want, I can share this and you can give your current state, but it will be half. Yeah, we are because now we are only covering the entire agile part. I thought that's the one I'll do a little more detail because that's what everybody will be actually doing. A lot of people will be doing that on the ground because yeah. So that was one part I wanted to go step by step only, so that people get opportunity to cover that. Yeah, yeah. And then of course a bit about governance and other things.
Yeah.
No, 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 nothing. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, Ajit sir.
Okay.
Good. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Pradeep
good
sir, thank
night.
you.
Yeah, thank you very
Good
much.
night. Mm.
Thank you very much for the feedback. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for joining. Yeah, thank you very much. Good night.